Different kind. Okay.
Now this tree here, I was talking about Horace Kephart and George Washington Sears, or Nesmith. And they would go out in the woods and cut a tree like this down and cut all these tips of the branches about a foot or so back, and they would lay them down and make a bed or a carpet in their hut or their shelter, and they would lay on that to keep them off the ground. So I can imagine all the trees that these guys cut down and used and, just left out there. But they would use that, and you go further up north, you use like the Fraser fir and things, and you line your bed with that. Or you can also use it on the roof of your shelter to shed water.
Don't overdo it.
Right.
So when you cut them all down, you cut the fourth of them. Okay, come here.
This little plant right here, I know it as daisy fleabane, is what they call it. And they would gather bunches of this and put it around their beds and everything. It's supposed to repel fleas and mites and things like that. So when they lived in their cabins, way back in the sticks, back in the day that I was talking about earlier, they had problems with bed bugs and things like that. So they would use these plants and gather them up. And there's an oil or something in them that's kind of an insect repellent. So I've also heard of people taking them and mashing them up and soaking them in alcohol and extracting a type of bug juice that they would use. I haven't tried that, but I'd say it's probably effective. They've used it for years. Another interesting, useful plant.
Did you grow these around the garden and keep bugs out?
Well, you can try it. I don't know if anybody's done it, but it might work.
Next year here. Yeah, I know there's certain flowers that you can get, put around your garden, keep a lot of your bugs out.
Right. Oh, here's something interesting. This is neither a tree nor a plant or anything useful. It's just interesting. There's some insects that lay their eggs in a foamy mixture that they deposit on certain trees. And as you can see, it's all over some of these trees.
Does it hurt the tree?
It doesn't hurt the tree at all. It's just an egg pod, and they excrete some kind of foamy substance, and they deposit their eggs in it, and it kind of hardens on the outside to protect them. And then when they hatch, they eat their way out and fly off. So,
does it smell fruity?
Does it smell fruity? Someone want to maybe taste it, see what kind of flavor it has.
Tastes like bug.
Bug juice. Here we go. Here we have a couple small examples of red cedar. Right here. A lot of you guys have used the cedar bark, that stringy bark to make your tinder bundles.
There's a lot of cedar up here, dude.
I haven't seen a lot. I've walked around camp looking for them. I've only found a half dozen or so. But yeah, that's the red cedar right there. That's what they use the wood to make that good smelling wood to put in your foot locker to keep the moth off your blankets and stuff. Or if you go to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, they make those stupid little trinkets that you can take home for 10 times the price of what they're worth. Very good wood. I love to find an old down cedar tree, throw it in the fire. It just gives off a wonderful smell, So there are some uses for it. And this is in the family, the juniper family. You've seen trees that look a lot like this that have little blue berries. They take those berries and they use that as a flavoring for gin. Here's a very small tree in the magnolia family. Mostly they're ornamental in people's yards, those big trees with the dark green leathery leaves. And this is a small one. It's not fully bloomed out yet.
They get real big.
They get huge, yeah. And I don't know personally of any useful purposes for it other than ornamentation. I don't know if the wood's any good, if it's sturdy to use for whatever. I'm sure there's a use for it. I mean, most things have a use. It's just whether it's practical or not. It's a different story.
What'd you call that?
It's a member of the magnolia family. You have like the cucumber magnolia and some other one, and so, but it's definitely in the magnolia family. You can tell by those big, long, elliptical leaves there, and they get real thick and leathery and dark green. I was looking for some sugar maples, and I haven't seen any around here. They're a very interesting tree.
Yeah, what we call water maple.
Water maple?
Anything, you know.
Not good for anything. Oh, yes. All right. It's a very small version of it. It's a very young tree. But can anybody tell me what this is?
Sassafras?
Very good, sassafras. This is a very good tree. It's you can make tea if you dig up some of the roots. You don't want to kill the tree, so you just come to the side and take little rootlets off. 2 or 3 off this tree, 2 or 3 off that until you have a handful, and you can make sassafras tea. And matter of fact, if you go to Walmart in the where's it at? I think it's in the section where they sell tea bags and everything. You'll find there's a little bottle usually on the top shelf. It's a sassafras concentrate that you can make sassafras tea with. But they've taken out the one of the ingredients called saffrole, which according to the FDA causes cancer. Of course, they gave it to the rats about 500,000 times the normal dose over a period of weeks. Caused the rats to get cancer. But nobody ever got cancer from drinking sassafras tea, and you can't quote me on that. Sassafras tea sassafras tree is noted by the 3 fingers. Oftentimes it has two fingers to it, but it reminds you of a mitt. A lot of the leaves will remind you, like right here. Reminds you of a mitten, and that's how you can identify the sassafras. And if you take it and chew it up, they used to use it for like a sore throat or for your coughing. And you chew it up, it creates this kind of a slimy coating that will coat your throat. Slimy for lack of a better word, but it'll coat your throat and help prevent coughing. And it has a unique flavor to it. These aren't very strong here. As the leaves get bigger, they have a stronger flavor. But it's not a bad flavor. And the tea is really good if you can get some of that.
I see somebody else do it first and he followed dead. I'm okay.
Yeah. But this right here is not, it's not poisonous. No, it's not poisonous or anything. I don't know anything about the wood. They never used the wood much because it was a smaller tree. They can get large, but I've never seen in my lifetime, I've never seen a large sassafras tree like that big one over there, like that big tree over there. They're always smaller, about this big in diameter, maybe 20 foot tall. So there's not a real practical use as far as the wood, except maybe a walking cane or some small items. And I don't know how strong the wood is. But I'm surprised to see that. I've been looking all over for those today.
Is this a blackberry?
Yeah, this is either blackberry or raspberry. I can't tell yet. It's so small. And the blackberries, I usually tell by the fruit, but the blackberry and raspberry has a little bit different leaf pattern. One has like 5 to 7 leaves, and one has 3 to 5. It's kind of confusing, but I just look at it and I know what a blackberry is and a raspberry. And you can tell.
Have home blackberries?
Uh-huh.
Until they get really ripe, they're kind of red.
They're kind of red.
Then they get black.
And when you pull the berries off of a raspberry, the inside is hollow because it comes off the stem that way. Yeah. On a blackberry, the stem will stay attached on the inside of the blackberry. That's one way you can tell. And they're virtually the same color. There's another dogwood tree back here. And right here we have everybody's favorite plant. Poison ivy. Growing all over here. And here's some more of them cat briars growing up in this tree. That vine, they'll grow 20 or 30 feet up in
Now, how do you identify the poison ivy exactly?
The poison ivy, let me pick some and show you.
Yeah, don't touch
The poison ivy has 3 leaves, and they're all connected. The stem is all connected, as you can see. You have 2 leaves growing out and 1 leaf growing forward. Like,
A lot of times they're growing up a tree.
Can you get a look at this here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the poison ivy.
As opposed to these leaves that kind of look like a little oak leaf.
Right.
Okay.
So,
or is that just more mature poison ivy?
Could be more mature poison ivy.
That's
right
poison
there.
ivy too.
Yeah, that's poison ivy too.
Poison ivy and poison oak.
Poison oak's 4 leaves.
from my understanding, poison oak is more westward from where I'm at.
Yeah,
And,
we got a lot of it in South Carolina.
Well, I was wanting to show you guys some jewelweed, but we need to be somewhere where there's water, like a creek or something. And jewelweed's very good for poison ivy. You can take the leaves and roll them up, smash them up in your hand, and put the juice on the poison ivy or a bee sting, and it really helps. And there's none of that around here. It's too dry up here. So here's another white oak. The leaves haven't fully come out yet, but here's a better example of the bark. It's kind of scaly. It's got these long, rectangular looking scales, and that's one way you can identify the white oak. A lot of white oaks have a very similar bark.
He's going to miss all of those. Looks like you're learning.
We're trying to learn a little something here. Here's a young dogwood, right here. This one right here. If you'll notice on the dogwoods, where the leaves attach, the little branchlets, they tend to turn upward. So you can identify by these ovate shaped leaves, and where these little branchlets turn up, the easiest way in the spring is when the flowers are on them. But you can identify them, you know, the bark is one good way to identify them, because dogwood has a unique bark. It's very checkered. These small little checkers all over, square little checkers all over. And as the tree gets older, they get deeper. So that's one way. That's a unique bark. It's different than most trees. Now there's a tree they call the sugar plum tree. It's got the orange fruit on it that ripens in the fall, and it's usually no good until it falls off the tree, because they make your mouth pucker. I mean, real bad. The name escapes me right now, but it'll come to me in a minute and I'll remind you. But that's the only tree that has bark that looks similar to this one. It's got the checks like this.
Persimmon?
Persimmon. Thank you, Jack. Persimmon. But the difference between the checkering on the persimmon and the checkering on the dogwood is the persimmon is very square and organized type of bark, where these are just kind of random